Hi, I'm Caliban, and welcome to episode 3 of our bar single player scenario guides. We're going to start off with the 9th scenario, which is King of the Hill. Now, the level of challenge presented by this scenario ranges from almost 0 to almost impossible depending on the difficulty level. Although you've got 7 opponents, the AI is pretty basic on this one and tends to build very inefficiently. It will often open up with 3 different labs and then build a random assortment of unmatched units and run them towards you in a big long line. At normal difficulty or below, this is very manageable. You've got plenty of time to set up some defences and turtle it out until you're ready to strike. If you decide to attack early, the AI will be totally unprepared and fold pretty quickly. And if you decide to play the long game, it won't do too much to threaten you. At hard or brutal difficulty, this equation changes. The extra resources goes a long way to make up for the gaps in their inefficiencies, and the AI will send waves and waves of units at you and slowly grind you down. Just when you think you've got a handle on all the choke points and you're about to stabilise, you'll find spider bots crawling up the mountains, nuke bombers flying overhead, and long-range plasma cannons chipping away your defences. It seems the trick to winning this on the harder difficulties is to hold 2 of the 3 choke points while sending out early attacks of tough T1 units to try and kill a few of the AIs before they really get going. If you can pull this off, you'll cut the AI off from a lot of the map, create lots of reclaimable metal, and put yourself in a safe enough position to build up your economy and then crush them with T2 or experimental units later in the game. You've got to move pretty quick to make this work, but I have had success with this strategy on hard difficulty. I've not managed to beat it on brutal yet, but I believe that the same sort of strategy will work and you just need to execute it better than I can. Now, a quick glance at this map reveals what looks like 3 individual choke points. You've got one here, you've got one here, and you've got one here. However, they're not all identical. You see, this choke point gives you a direct route to one base. This choke point gives you direct route to one base, whereas the bottom choke point sort of gives you access to 3 bases by this kind of shape. Now, to attack these bases up here, you would have to go out of this choke point, around these tight cut turns, and then between 2 enemies to get to them. But using this exit, we can actually attack the enemy directly, and then once these are dead, we can sweep round. So what we're going to do is we're going to form a very strong area here for defence, a very strong area here for defence, then we're going to push our forces out, we're going to try and take this player out, take this player out, and then push our remaining forces out from here and here to take these 2 players out. And then what that'll do is that'll give us access to pretty much this part of the map. Now, once we own all this part of the map and the AI have only got this part, we'll be ahead on the resource game and we'll be able to win a lot more easily. So what I do is I open up with 3 or 4 windmills and 3 mexes, and I also get myself a vehicle plant. I think you start with a radar and a solar collector for free, so that gives you a little bit of a boost. And then what I'm going to do is start making brutes. But before I've made my brutes, I'm actually going to make 7 construction vehicles. Now the first one, or in fact the first 3, they're going to leave my base and go out to these 3 areas here and get the mexes and set up some initial defences. You will have to deal with planes quite early. So you push your construction vehicle out, you get a thistle up quickly, and then once the thistle's up, you can get yourself the 3 mexes and then 2 more thistles, and that'll protect this from all the early gunships and bombers. Now you do the same thing down here, and the same thing over here. That's your first 3 construction vehicles. So the next 3 construction vehicles that come out, they'll go out to these positions here, they'll get a warden up to bolster the defences, and then they'll capture the mechs. And they'll also get a construction turret too to keep everything repaired. After that, the final and the 7th construction vehicle will come out. He'll start a single construction turret which the commander can finish, and then he'll get a load of advanced solars up, which the commander can help him build. And then we're going to start cranking out brutes. Now we're going to send the first few brutes to bolster the defences. This is because they like to send things like these possums that pick away your defences at long range. So what we want to do is have a few brutes at each of these choke points so that the brutes can nip out, kill any long range missile things that are firing at you and then nip back. So we've got a brute here that's going to come and do that. We've got probably going to send a brute over here in a minute. And then once the brute's done its job, it can run back to the safety of these protected areas. And then the rest of our brutes, they're all going to start massing up at this choke point. Let's put this on 2 speed so we can go through it a little bit quicker. So now we've got 9 or 10 brutes up, we're going to start our first attack. Now remember, these are only easy AIs, so individually they're not very tough and their bases will be pretty weak and spread out and not make a lot of sense. So 9 or 10 brutes is going to do a lot of damage. So we're going to move them in, we're going to kill off any units they've got, and then we're just going to start wrecking their base. And if possible, we're going to pop their commander. Easy AI is not too smart, he'll probably just stand there while you shoot him, maybe go invisible for a bit, but not a problem. Just stay back, don't get too close, beat the commander down and then finish off the rest of the base. It doesn't matter if all your brutes die, this is only a small force and you should be making a lot more. You've got a lot of metal here on the map. I mean, you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, you've got like 18 to 20 odd metal extractors. So you should be able to pump brutes out at a good level. And then you can just keep moving them down here. And the fact that you've got a constant flow of brutes means that if there's a strong attack in this area, it's not too bad because you can just reuse your brutes to go and kill them. So once we've got our first AI dead, or I mean there's a couple of planes left, but that's close enough to dead, we're going to move our next load of brutes down to start attacking the second AI. Again, remember, only an easy AI, not very smart, not very strong. So it looks like most of the defences here are actually anti-air, which doesn't bother us too much. So we're going to take these down and then start picking away at his economy. I've also built a few more brutes which are just going to push out of the top here and just make sure the AI isn't getting too established and getting too many metal nodes. These aren't going to kill a base or anything like that, they're just going to cause a bit of mischief. But the main load of my brutes is just going to keep forming up here and then pushing down towards the enemy. You'll notice that I've only got 6 brutes here, but that's easy enough to kill off these like laser towers and the small amount of units the AI has. Also, the AI is not smart, and often you'll see things like this, which will severely limit the amount of damage they can do to you. Now that 6 wasn't quite enough brutes, but we did plenty of damage, and we've got another, another 9 brutes coming down now, because we're making them at a really fast rate. I mean, we're cranking out 1 brute every, every 5 seconds or something. Every 4 or 5 seconds we've got a new brute. At this point we've actually got an advanced construction vehicle out. So what we're going to do, we're going to upgrade our mechs to give us some more metal, and then we're going to get 3 pinpointers up, because it just really makes these wardens a lot more effective at the job they're doing. So we're going to get some pinpointers up and get them built. We're not going to make any T2 units just yet. We're going to still keep focusing on brutes. I'm not quite sure why there's ospreys overhead, but we lost a lot of brutes, but that is another AI player down. Although we're starting to have to deal with quite a lot of air, which is frustrating, as obviously the brutes can't really do anything against that. But we do have another big bunch of brutes, and these are going to come down and move on to the next base. Not much to say about this. Brutes are doing their job quite nicely and taking out the AI. Although they do all die. There's a lot of stuff to fight here, but hey, there's a lot more brutes where that came from, as we can see by here. Although the air is getting a bit frustrating. So once you find that there's a bit too much air and it does become a little bit annoying to deal with, change your factory build queue up a bit and then switch it up. So instead of continually building brutes, you're building 1 brute, 1 lasher, 1 brute, 1 lasher on repeat. What that'll do is that'll make sure that you've got enough anti-air mixed in that that you can take down all the planes. Also, lashers still have got a decent amount of DPS and they've got good range. I mean, they do 74 DPS, it's not much less than a brute, and that's going to let you take out these AI and take out their aircraft at the same time. Once this AI is dead, which he should be any second, what we can do now is we can move down and we can crush this one which we started on earlier but didn't finish off. Now that we've got some advanced metal extractors up, and we've also started upgrading our other mechs over here, we can switch to T2. So although I'm still building lashers to give myself anti-air protection, I've stopped building brutes and instead I'm building tigers, because tigers are just super brutes. And I'm going to start massing them over this choke point here because that's where most of the attacks are coming from, and I'm going to get ready to strike. While this is happening, all my brutes and my lashers are going to go and finish off this guy down here. And now, while they're doing this, I'm going to start moving out with my big force up here. So these tigers do a lot more damage, they've got a lot more health, and they should rip through all the enemy's defences. And I've got enough lashers mixed in that the few gunships they chuck at me won't be a huge problem. What I'm going to do first is clear off this tier here, get rid of all the stuff that's built up close, and that will just reduce the enemy's economy by a decent amount. And at the same point, I'm not ignoring my base. I've got lots of advanced solar collectors up now, I'm getting my first fusion reactor up, and I make sure to go around and start upgrading all of these mexes. So I've got quite a few of these done now, and that's going to give me lots and lots and lots of metal income. Looks like I've pretty much lost everything over here. I don't know, I built a bot lab so I can get some grave robbers up to come and reclaim all this metal, but unfortunately there's a single mace that's just wrecked my plans with that. But it looks like they've reclaimed most of it before they died, so there's a few bits left down here, but I don't have to worry about them for quite a while. And I've sent one force of tigers into the base. They've got a nuke bomber, which is annoying, but my lashers should deal with it after some time. Oh, it does a lot of damage. But it should die. Yeah, there we go, it's dead. And then I'm just going to finish off this base. At the same time, I'm rolling down the other force of tigers that I built to finish off everything here that didn't die in the first couple of attacks. And now I've got another big reinforcement wave of tigers rolling in. The reason I've got this is just that I'm continually building them hard and hard and hard. So if you look with the amount of resources I've got something like, what's that, 27 construction turrets. They're fully working. I've got enough resources to support it. And I've got one of these tigers coming out every probably 3 or 4 seconds. I've got a lasher coming out the same sort of time, and that allows me to build up a force pretty quickly. So even though I've taken quite a lot of losses, because I'm obviously managing an attack here, I'm managing an attack here, and I'm managing an attack here all at the same time, it means that my attention is split and I'm not microing them very well. I'm just using the fact I've got a strong economy to just brute force my way through the enemy. So now that the bottom part of the map is pretty much safe, I can start moving this force here down, and then moving this force across to squash this enemy in the corner here. Using another force I've got, I've started to plough into this. I also decided to build a little bit of a bastion strong point over here. I didn't want the enemy flanking me and causing me problems with my other forces. So what I decided to do is build some defences, get a bulwark up, and capture these mechs, and that's just going to give me a bit of a backstop. Stops the enemy from pushing past me here. Although they can come down this way, they often don't. So this just buys me a bit of time, and I've moved a few vehicles here to secure it while I get building. It's also a bit of an idiot magnet. Just because you've got something there means the enemy wants to attack it, so if you can make it strong, they'll just throw themselves against it and not against something that's pretty useful. Let's speed this up a little bit. So my force at the bottom here is going to come round and just deal with everything that's being built here and finally get rid of everything from these players. And I've built myself a couple of dragons. Now, a reason I've switched into dragons and stopped doing vehicles is because the map's pretty big, and at this point the enemies are quite spread out in a lot of places and quite hard for me to deal with mass tanks. So I've switched over to building dragons because they're very mobile, they do a lot of damage, they've got a lot of health, I can repair them when they get low. So I'm going to use these dragons to start clearing up these little areas, and it's a lot quicker than using my tanks. I've still got a lot of tanks up, so they're going to still do the job they can. They're going to just start smashing through bases at the top, bringing all the other tanks from the bottom up to come and join them, and just smashing through the enemy. Remember, these bases look big, but like I said, easy II bases. They're pretty much a random array of structures. The defences are all tier 1 and not very powerful. I mean, these gauntlets are great, but they don't do a huge amount of DPS, and all these T-units will just smash through them without you having to micro too much. And at the same time, the dragons are going through, clearing up all the little outposts. I've built gunships as well to help the dragons along. And now I'm just going to crush the enemy. Sometimes the enemy will start building in the sea and it can be really hard to find their commanders. You're just going to have to spread out, get some air, get some sonar and try and find them. It can be annoying, but you won't lose. It will just take a bit longer to win. Fortunately, they've got quite a lot of anti-air in this little area, so I'm struggling with the dragons. But I do have some tanks that are going to come through and blow it up instead. These chainsaws are hella good. If you're armed, build lots of chainsaws everywhere you need anti-air. What they're not very good against is Zars. So I decided to stop building air and just build a big load of Zars and just smash everything to little pieces. And now the map's mine. There's just a few little bits remaining at the top. They're mostly hard for me to find, so I've just got to try and find their commander and kill him. So it looks like their commander's coming back on land, which means I'll probably be able to kill him pretty easily. Oh yeah, looks like he's just going to get exploded. And there you go. So, quick recap. You start off with a free advanced solar collector, so you haven't got to get windmills until a bit later. So get up 3 mexes, get out a vehicle plant and start producing construction vehicles. The first one you want to come up here, you want to get yourself a thistle, and then you want to get yourself the 3 mexes, you want to get yourself 2 more thistles, get this final mex, and then send the construction vehicle down to do something else. The second construction vehicle and the third construction vehicle do exactly the same thing but on these other 2 arms. Get a thistle first, get 3 more mexes, get another 2 thistles, and then go back and do something useful. And the third one, here, thistle, mex, 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 thistle, thistle, back. So your next 3 construction vehicles, vehicles 4, 5 and 6, each one goes here, build a warden. And then build a construction turret. That'll keep your choke point safe. After that, crank out a load of brutes, start smashing the enemy here, here and here and here. And then once you've got most of this part of the map clear, you've got plenty of time, get to Tech 2, get loads of energy, build loads of bigger tanks and then crush everything else. And then finish up with air because it's easier to find all the odds and ends lying around the map. Now we're going to look at Keep Your Secrets, which is the 10th scenario. So this one is quite challenging because you're against a barbarian AI. On brutal difficulty, they get 100% resource bonus, which is huge, and they already start with a big and powerful base, including an aircraft plant and a bot lab ready to go. When the map starts, lots of random stuff spawns all over it owned by a third and neutral faction. So what we want to do is capture some of this stuff and use it to give our economy a huge boost. So what we're going to do is slightly unusual start. We're going to get ourselves a construction bot out and we're going to start on a Tech 2 lab straight away because we've already got a decent amount of mexes and we're going to get a lot more metal. And then we're also going to crank out an aircraft plant because we need to find some good stuff to capture or to reclaim. So the first thing I'm going to build unit-wise that isn't a construction bot is a finch. And then I'm going to use the finch to go around the map and scout and look for something worth reclaiming. So what I'm looking for is this. I want energy generation because it's really hard to get enough energy early on. And then I want some metal production and maybe some fixed defences because they'll help me keep the enemy at bay. They normally start off with a lot of air units and then they'll send lots of ground units at you. So you want to be able to protect what you find if you're going to keep it. So I'm going to send a Finch scouting around and look for something good to take. And I'm going to build a heavy transport so I can move my commander up to the first thing I find, which is this little area right here, which suits my purposes lovely. So I've got an advanced geothermal plant, which is really good for me, loads of energy. I've got 2 advanced mexes here, and I've got an exploiter here. And then I've got an anti-air defense and a little bit of anti-ground defense. So my commander's going to go through and capture all of these units, and this is going to give me a huge boost. I'm also going to build some grave robbers, and I'm going to send them out because some of this stuff is quite good, but some of it isn't. And the stuff that isn't that useful, like a random gauntlet, I can just reclaim. That'll give me 1250 metal, which will help me boost my economy. And I won't have a problem with energy production because I'm going to live off these captured things to begin with. So I've also built a Hercules, and I'm going to ferry a construction bot over. He's just going to build a few more T1 defences in this area to help me fortify it, because this is a pretty nice hole. You won't always find stuff this good, but you'll sometimes find stuff even better. If we look around the map, you see there's quite a lot of advanced metal extractors. There's some fixed defences. There's some advanced windmills. There's more anti-air. There's some very powerful chain gun anti-air things here. But normally you'll find at least some energy generation. It might be a fusion reactor, or a few of them, or a cloakable one, or something useful like that. I think it's definitely worth checking the geospots first, because you'll often find something on at least one of the 3 geospots. So I'm going to use the fact I've got loads of early metal and loads of early energy to really kickstart my economy back at my base. So let's see how that grows. So I've got advanced construction vehicle coming out. That's going to just upgrade my exploiters straight away. That's the first thing it's going to do. Then I'm going to pop down an APHIS and get myself some energy converters. I'm going to build some twitchers to go and support my advanced construction bot to get things done quicker. I've got loads of metal and loads of energy because I've got all these advanced things I've captured. My commander's capturing more, and my grave robbers are going to run around and try and reclaim anything else they can find. I'm struggling a little bit with the amount of bombers they're putting down, but my commander's just going to chuck up loads and loads and loads of thistles, and hopefully that will keep the bombers busy. I've also decided to build a few T1 fighters because I had the aircraft lab already, and the bombers were getting a bit troublesome, so I built loads of those. Now there are some small unit attacks coming out, but my construction bot has managed to build an extra couple of Dragon Maw, which on top of the jaw are going to keep this safe from the light units. And now I'm going to build a jamming device and a construction turret to make this even more safe. There's quite a lot of things coming now, but by this point I've built a dragon. You see, that's the thing. You've got loads and loads and loads of metal and energy coming in, more than you can spend some of the time. So while I was getting my fusion reactor up and going around and doing all these things with Commander, I'd already got a Tech 2 aircraft plant up. And I used that Tech 2 aircraft plant to get an early dragon out. And that's going to mean that I can easily defend myself against all these pushes. We're only 11 minutes into the game, I've already got a dragon out. And it was easily affordable. In fact, some of the time I've got so much metal I can barely spend it all. But you see, the number of enemy units is becoming more and more and more, and I won't be able to hold this position indefinitely. But I don't need to. You see, I only have to hold this long enough to get my first APHIS up. Once that's up and I've got all these advanced metal extractors in my base, I've got enough production that I don't have to worry too much about this little outpost anymore. And it will die at some point, but it'll give me plenty of time to do other things. And now I've got more and more dragons up. See, I'm just going to keep producing dragons, and I'm going to try and use them to win. Because I only need to kill their commander, and I know where he is. So if I can build enough dragons, I can try and snipe him down. Now, one thing to note is if you're going to attack the base from the air, you might think that this side of the map is easy to get to, just because it naturally looks like you've got a nice bit of cliff to go over and it's fine. But there's a huge amount of anti-air defences that start on this side of the map. However, on the top of the map, you've just got a couple of chainsaws which you can deal with. So what I'm going to do is move 4 dragons in. I'm going to come through and just going to try and kill the commander on my first push. And he's dead. Easy as that. So if you try and play this properly and a long game, this is a really, really hard mission. Instead, get a jump start from one of the nice outcrops you find, get yourself some dragons up, go and snipe the commander, win the game easy. And you should be able to do it way before you hit the 20-minute mark. Now the 11th scenario is called Steal Cortex's Tech. This is really, really difficult because you're hardly allowed to build anything with your basic constructors. All you can build is construction bots, res bots, and some T1 defenses. That's it. Now somehow you've got to be a barbarian AI who gets extra resources if you're on brutal or hard and has no restrictions. Now this can take a lot of effort to win because unfortunately you're kind of relying on just stuff happening that's outside your control. You need to be able to capture one of the enemy's construction bots or kill one and reclaim it and then build your base up. After that you've just got to win a standard game. The problem is it takes quite a while to be able to find, kill, resurrect or capture one of their construction bots, which gives the AI a huge extra head start over you and the fact they've got extra resources, and they can often be in such a powerful position by the time you can even build a unit that you don't have a lot of chance. However, I have tried this quite a few times and I've come up with a strategy which is successful quite a lot of the time. So what I like to do is I'm going to capture these 2 metal spots at the bottom, then I'm going to build a couple of solars because wind is never my friend and always goes wrong, and then I'm going to build 2 more mechs, then I'm going to get a bot lab up. Once the bot lab's up, I'm going to make sure I've got these 2 turrets up because I don't want to get killed by little light scouts, so I'm going to get these up early. Then I'm going to build windmills. Remember, you're not playing like normal because you can't actually build units. So you've got to do something very differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank out 5 construction bots and some Lazarus. At the same time, my commander is going to build some windmills, and then my first 2 construction bots I'm just going to set on a queue up just to build loads and loads of windmills while I'm busy doing other things. And I am going to use my commander to help build these construction bots, but I'm also going to get an energy storage out. You see, I'm going to try and capture a unit. To do that, I really need to be cloaked so I don't die, and to do that, I need a lot of energy. Now, I'm not going to have the income to support 1,000 a second for cloaking, but if I can get 2 of these up, that gives me something like 12, 13, 14,000 energy storage, which means I've got, 10, 12 seconds of cloak and I can still be safe and have a bit left over for D-gun. So while my commander walks off, my extra 2 construction bots, and one of them is going to build energy converters. Normally I don't like a tier 1 energy converter economy, but you've got nothing else you can really do at this point. I can't go to T2. So the best thing I can do is build loads of windmills, and then when I'm not using those wind power, I can get some extra metal for energy converters. I'm going to eat the 2 solar collectors I built earlier with my first Lazarus because I don't really need them and I might as well have the metal back. And then I'm going to walk across. I'm going to build a metal extractor here. I'm going to get 2 sentries up just to protect this metal extractor from a few bots that might come through. You will get harassed early and frequently. Oh, not bots, I'm against vehicles, aren't I? So it'll be a few incisors. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill off these incisors with my D-gun and with my shots because I don't want them to do any damage. And I'm going to build my next mechs here. I'm going to secure it with a couple of turrets, but I'm also going to get a sneaky Pete going. The reason is I want to try and find a vehicle to capture, and I know at some point a construction vehicle is going to come and try and capture this metal spot. So I'm going to use this knowledge to my advantage. So once I've got 1 sneaky Pete up here, that gives me enough range to cover about to here. And that means I can build a second sneaky Pete and they can't see where it is. And then I'm going to build a beholder so I've got some more vision. This means that I have radar jamming support in an area out around like this kind of thing here. So when a construction vehicle comes down, I'm going to use my commander to walk in cloaked, be invisible from radar and hopefully capture it. That's the plan anyway. But there's no construction vehicle there at the moment, so we might as well get busy. So you will be attacked by quite a lot, so I'm going to build an overwatch to give myself some more protection, and then I'm going to get a jamming tower up to cover that overwatch. I'm not going to worry about this area at the top just yet, although I will build an overwatch to protect myself. Now, the problem with this map is it's quite deceptive. If you look at it, you're like, hey, this should be fine. My base is protected by this wall. There's 2 choke points here I can easily cover. Everything's fine. Wrong. Bots can walk up here. Bots can walk up here. Bots can walk down here, and they'll kill you. Also, amphibious vehicles can walk up here, and down here. This includes the poison arrow amphibious heavy tank with its massive gun and huge amount of health. And you don't want a massive load of poison arrows coming into the back of your base. So I'm going to build a overwatch up here to give myself some vision and a little bit of damage, and also it will pick away at stuff over there. Now, the reason I'm not spreading out to capture this is because I don't have any mobile units. So if an attack comes through here and my commander's up there somewhere, there's nothing I can do about it. I need to rely on my commander really heavily early on, because if a big bunch of tanks or bots comes through, I need to be able to degun them because the commander is really the only combat power I've got. But there's nothing to capture yet, so my commander's going to wander over here, get some metal extractors up. Now, they might die quite quickly, but he might as well be doing something, and there's nothing else he can really be doing. So we're going to do that. Here comes the first attack. It's going to come through and kill a Lazarus. Now, my 2 towers should be able to cover it as the Lazarus can repair them. They're going to come and poke at my commander, but my commander's got D-gun, plenty of energy. Then I'm going to build a couple of these towers to give myself some protection. They won't really stop much, but they will stop a few light tanks, and it means that these metal extractors might last a bit longer. Now I'm going to notice in my vision that there's a construction vehicle coming through, so I immediately stop what I'm doing. I'm not going to capture this metal spot because I am on the clock. So my commander's going to run over. I'm going to get within the cloakable protection range of my Sneaky Pete, and then I'm going to cloak. This means I'm completely hidden from view and completely hidden from radar. And at the same time, while this is happening, my Lazaruses are going to try and repair the turrets and hold off the attackers with the help of the Overwatch and my construction vehicle and maybe my little incisor. I'm going to degun down that tower, and then I'm going to try and capture one of these construction vehicles using the capture command. Now this is going to get a bit dicey, so you've got to be on the ball. But once it's captured, kill any units near it with the D-gun, and then run the hell away. You'll need to protect this. They will try and kill it. So you're going to have to D-gun anything that comes down, keep an eye on your energy, and when it starts to get low, make sure you stay cloaked and move away, and you should be fine. Although you'll have to keep moving and follow this construction vehicle because it goes really slow up this hill, and you don't want that thing to die. Now these tanks are going to come through and kill this, but you don't have a choice. There's nothing you can do about that. It's not worth risking your commander at this point. If he dies, you lose the game. You don't have enough energy to really do anything. You just got to make sure this construction vehicle gets back to your base. So we're 11 minutes into the game, and this is where we can actually start to try and do something. So we've already got a bit of an economy established. We've got ourselves 58 windmills built up, which is giving us a rubbish amount of energy because wind is not being kind to me. We've got some energy converters in case the wind does decide to sort itself out. We've got a metal storage because we might do a lot of reclaiming, so we don't want that to go to waste. And we're still getting more windmills up, and our bots are still building. Now we're going to leave our commander over here because we still haven't really got any mobile forces, and we need to protect ourselves. So we're going to rely on the commander and his D-gun to try and clear off these brutes and do as much damage as we can. You have to keep an eye on your commander, but if you keep him stealth, keep him cloaked, he'll probably be fine, and hopefully if the wind's nice you'll have enough energy to sort it out. So we're actually going to go straight into a Tech 2 lab. We're not going to muck around with Tech 1, and we're just going to rely on some reclaiming, and hopefully that will get us through to the point. It's quite difficult and it's maybe not too optimum, but we're going to need Tech 2 units soon because we're going to be overwhelmed if we don't. We won't be able to build enough T1 units quick enough to protect ourselves. They just won't have the range or the damage to do enough. So we're going to hope that some of these units will come up to our towers, they'll die, and we can use our Lazarus to reclaim them and to help build this factory. Which they're quite obliging with, and we do get a few hundred metal here and there off these dead vehicles. We've also built a jammer and a raider up here just to give us a bit more coverage, and this Overwatch is helpfully shooting stuff and generally being a nuisance. There is quite a lot more units coming through now, quite a lot of artillery, but we're just going to walk towards it with our commander. We've got jamming support here, and we're just going to de-gun all these down. We won't be able to reclaim them, unfortunately, but hey, we need to thin their units out. We can't have that much artillery sitting around. It will do a huge amount of damage. Try not to de-gun things if you don't need to, because you do need to reclaim it if possible, or maybe use it. I like to resurrect and reclaim to get all the metal back if I can. And now the enemy has got T2 units out. We're about 16 minutes in and it's hitting me with Tech 2 units. This is why we need something strong and powerful. So what we're going to go for is we're going to go for amphibious tanks. Now that might sound like a bit weird, but the thing with the poison arrow is it's got this really nice mix of range, DPS, and also maneuverability. Because these amphibious tanks can traverse this area here and this area here, it gives us a bit more options. And also it's worth noting they can traverse this and this too, and this. So because those amphibious units have got that ability, I think they're really worth using. Also, if you compare them to the other options, if we pause and have a look, you see the Tiger has only got a range of 410. Now we know the enemy will build quite a lot of Tigers. The poison arrow's got a range of 575. So if we've got poison arrows and they've got Tigers, then we're going to be able to outrange them, and that's going to keep us safe and allow us to kill them even if we've only got a handful. Once we've got the first one out, we just want one just to help kill some of these units. We are going to get an advanced construction vehicle out because we desperately need to upgrade our mexes. We need more metal income, and also get some more energy generation too. So we're going to use the expert range of the poison arrow to just start taking down these Tigers. We're going to use these Lazaruses to keep these things alive, which is going to be very tricky. But luckily the AI likes to retreat when it loses a bit of health. So one poison arrow can make these really tough Tsars and these banishers just go back a little bit. And also just do quite a bit of annoying damage. As you can see, the range on these is really impressive, and it makes a huge difference because we can kill a lot of units that are way outside of any place that would actually threaten us. So this is very, very useful for us. If we're lucky, we'll manage to kill a Tsar. If we're not lucky, it will fire a lot at us, but we do move the commander in to try and de-gun it down because these are frightening. Unfortunately, the de-gun goes a bit funny on the edge of a cliff, but we're going to leave the commander there because he's cloaked and stealthy, and we're going to slowly, as our metal allows, crank out more poison arrows so we can do some damage. Now, we did try and do some reclaiming with the Lazarus there, but they got nuked. That's unfortunate. You've got to be very careful with your commander here. You can't lose him, but you've also got to use him because he's the toughest thing you've got. We're going to use one of our poison arrows to start clearing out some of the enemy's production now, because it's quite tough, and this is quite a safe area, so even if it dies we can probably reclaim it or resurrect it. At this point we've got our 4 mexes upgraded. We're going to upgrade the 5th one. That gives our metal production a bit more of a boost, but really we need to secure more because we're struggling to produce enough here. We have to be very careful with our poison arrows. We can't really afford to throw them away because our production's so low. So we've got to keep making Lazaruses, we've got to repair them up, and we've got to reclaim whatever we can. Even if we lose the Lazaruses, it's still worth it. And then we're going to send 1 or 2 at a time to try and clear this stuff out here. Remember that only the amphibious vehicles and bots can get up this hill, which means if the enemy's built lots of tigers and zars and artillery, they won't be able to do anything up there, only their poison arrows will, so it's relatively safe to go to this area. And now we've cleared all of that out, that gives us some extra things to capture, but because the enemy's got so much artillery, including all these horrible tremors, what we're going to have to do is build a lot of jammers along here that are mutually covering each other before we can really capture any of it. This beholder here is doing a lot of work, it gives us a lot of vision. This allows us to really kill so many of these units before they can do anything to us because they can't see above the hill and our radar jamming covers us. The enemy will try and flank a bit, which is unfortunate for that construction vehicle, but we're going to have to use some of our poison arrows to try and keep them at bay. But like I said, we don't have many, so we've got to be really careful with them and try and pull them back and repair them whenever we can. Whenever you lose Lazaruses, you've got to keep building more. We don't really want to lose this meta extractor, this is important to us. What I've decided to do here is build a Sabo battery, because these have got huge DPS and range, and I think it might really help kill a lot of stuff, as we can see a lot of enemy units coming up and down this corridor. I'm struggling with the amount of poison arrows the enemy's built, because obviously they can match the range of mine. So what I'm going to do is move mine, now I've got the Sabo battery to cover me a bit, I'm going to move all my poison arrows in to try and melt these ones down to stop them running away and getting repairs, and then hopefully I can resurrect them and add them to my force. Then what I'm going to do is send my poison arrows up this hill and try and do a bit of damage before all these defences get fully built. It's a bit risky and I'll probably end up losing them, but I really need to stop the enemy's production or slow it down somewhat. So I'm going to try and kill some of their energy generation, some of their metal production, and hopefully not lose all of my poison arrows. Not too bad. We lost one of them, but we did a decent amount of damage. And now that I've got jamming cover up here, I've used my Lazaruses to resurrect the defences that were still there. And now I've managed to get some more mechs up, and I'm going to build and resurrect as whatever I can, and that will hopefully keep them a bit safe. And I've also moved one poison arrow here to give me a bit more firepower. And then the idea is, if the enemy sends an attack up this way through here, I should be able to shoot them in the back with my front line, and that should make them run away or allow me to kill them. So back in the base at this point, I have built a fusion reactor to get my energy up a bit. I should really have built an anti-nuke by now. I don't think I did. Maybe I'll get one up later, but you kind of want to worry about that stuff because the AI does have a habit of nuking you whenever you forget. If we look at the AI base, they've already got a couple of fusions up. They're working on their first APHIS. And they've got a lot of production going, and they're starting to crank out T3 units. Now, these catapults are absolutely horrific because they do such a massive amount of damage over a huge area at huge range. This will be a huge problem for us. We will be able to manage it, but only barely. And just like before, I'm going to move my poison arrows up here, try and take out some production, and then get them back safe. But unfortunately, they get taken out because this bulwark's come up. But I have built a pop-up plasma artillery, so it means I can kill the bulwark from range now. Now it's time for me to fight back, because I feel like I'm in a reasonably good position. So I've secured up here, I've defended it with some poison arrows, I've got my mexes up, I've got a geo up, and I've got a few defences. I've also secured this bottom area. It's not that secure, but I have left a poison arrow here, I've got a couple of basic defences, I'm going to get some radar jammer. So I've pushed the enemy off half of the map. This makes me feel a bit safe because also I've got 9 poison arrows in the middle, they're well protected, by jamming cover. I've got plenty of Lazaruses to res them up, and I've got a few extra defences here. And I've managed to get advanced metal extractors built on all the close spots. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to bombers, and I'm going to try and use bombing to kill the enemy. The reason is it is really, really hard to push up these hills, especially with vehicles. They're slow, the enemy can rain down death on you from all their vehicles, plus these horrible catapults. And because I've not used planes at all yet, the AI won't have built any anti-air defence, so they should be quite vulnerable to my bombers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a load of bombers. I'm going to keep them all in the bottom right of the map so that the AI hopefully doesn't see them. And then when I've got enough bombers, I'm going to use them for big effect. Also, I've got an extra fusion reactor up by now, so I'll be able to afford the power for all these. And planes are quite low on the metal cost generally, so it kind of works out. Oh, and I do decide to get an anti-nuke because I realise I haven't got one, and that worries me. I haven't scouted a nuke yet, but I am worried. And I should be worried because it looks like the enemy is getting a juggernaut out at this point, and in some amount of time that will be finished, and if that finishes I'll be really struggling unless I get lucky enough to pop it with my commander. Now I've got a big load of bombers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first send over a Condor because they've got great range and not great range, they've got great radar range and vision range. So the Condor is going to try and scout the enemy and see what I want to bomb. And then that's going to find a good target for my bombers. And I've identified their commander as something that I definitely want to kill to win the game. Massive bomb drop on him. He dies. Everything explodes. Game 1. And that should do it. And that should help you win this mission on brutal difficulty. It's very difficult, and honestly it can be quite frustrating to get going, but I think you really need to rely on poison arrows. I think they're really, really good for this map. They do the job perfectly, and then once you've got yourself in a decent position, build some bombers, kill the commander, win the game. The final scenario we'll look at on this video is 1 by 1. Now this pits you against 7 barbarian AIs, which on brutal difficulty all get 50% extra resources. Now the thing with this map is they're all on the individual teams, so they're not working all against you, they're all against everyone. This makes everything really random, so I can't really give you any great guides or information for this one. I'd love to be able to give you a solid winning strategy, but so much of it just happens to be whatever the AI decides to do that you can't really affect things too much. However, there is a lot of resources in the middle of the map, and the AI likes to go around the edge of the map. So rather than spawn here, which you're supposed to, I spawned here. And then what I did is I got this mechs and this light laser tower. And then I went and got 2 mechs here. And now I'm going to go and get some solar panels up because there's no wind. And I'm going to actually make my base this bit here. This means that I've got access to 2 geos in the center of the map. Now this did get pretty dicey, but I did manage to just about come through on brutal and win. You have to worry about ticks and scouts, so you will need a couple of light laser turrets to defend your initial investment. And then, because energy's a bit funky, you want to make sure you've got lots of energy storage because you're going to be relying on your commander, and you need to make sure you'll be able to cloak and degun whenever you want to. Also, you're going to be building geothermals. So what you kind of want to do is save up enough energy before you start it and then use that excess energy to build the geothermal quickly. And I'm going to use a mechs and 2 sentry light towers as a kind of standard deployment up here to try and keep these at bay. Now you'll notice that if you move your base from here to here, rather than being attacked from both sides, instead what happens is the AI tends to come through and attack each other through this route. And they kind of leave you alone for the most part. Now if you look at the path the enemy goes, they're kind of going around the edge of the map. Although this is a little bit tricky here, and I do struggle to hold this area a bit, especially as there's already a light laser tower up. But I do decide to degun it down, try and get my own mechs up, end up giving up I think, and then retreating back a little bit. While this is going, I do build a couple of maces to protect my base, and then I get that geothermal up quite sharpish. Once that's done, I can easily reclaim all these solars for extra metal should I need it. And I'm going to just build a few light laser towers to try and keep these little grunts and other odds and ends from running around and giving me too much grief. Now I've got my geothermal up, I'm going to go straight into T2. I don't want to make loads of T1 units because they'll just get killed. I'm going to use this Lazarus to keep repairing these sentries up here, which will literally, this fight goes on for like 10 minutes or something, but the Lazarus is an auto repair and he'll make sure that Lasher doesn't really get any inroads. I'm going to reclaim these solar panels to give myself enough metal to get this bot lab up. And then I'm going to get my construction bot out and get my metal extractors upgraded pretty sharpish. Unfortunately, there's quite a lot of units that decide to come through over here, so this is a bit problematic and almost kills me. But I managed to just about survive using this mace and my commander to fight them off and this little laser turret. It's a close one, but we do just about make it. Unfortunately, I lost this part of the map during that because our focus was too spread, but we'll get that back in a minute. We've still got our 3 light laser towers on the top left, but now I'm producing hounds. I've got 5 hounds, I've got jamming support, radar support, and now I can just use these to smash all these rubbish T1 units. I've also built another hound and left it at my base, and that is going to hopefully be able to fight off all these units. I'm going to repair them with my advanced construction. But I did have to bring back these hounds to fight this push off because it was pretty nasty. I've also built a mobile anti-air because there are gunships and other planes and bombers and stuff flying about. And now what I'm going to do, because I've got lots of metal, I'm going to crank out a fat boy because it will allow me to protect my base against all this stuff that's coming through. This is a very nasty attack that I'm completely unprepared for. And it does a lot of damage, kills my T1 lab, which is really frustrating, and I lose my advanced construction bot too, which is also frustrating. Luckily, I've got enough of these hounds that I am able to make my base safe, and once the fat boy's out, I'm pretty well protected. So my commander's going to get another bot lab up. I'm going to get myself a radar so the fat boy is more effective. And then once the bot lab's up, I'm going to resurrect my advanced construction bot so I've got to build another one. But you see the fat boy just sorts all this stuff out. Although they love killing your radar. The AI does seem to have a real thing about killing your radars. But now that the fat boy's looking after the base, I can move my hounds out to try and clear out this area. All the while, the enemies are all fighting each other, and because they're all attacking each other constantly, they're not really taking up to T2. They're using all their resources on Tech 1 stuff, so I'm going to be at T2, and that makes me far more powerful than they are. So at this point, I'm just defending my own base. They're not being attacked too hard because they're all bitter with each other, because like I said, we're in the middle, they're all running around the outside. But we are going to move our hounds up and just start picking away at this base down here. And we're going to use the opportunity to get some more Amex up. We're going to get a chainsaw or 2 up to protect ourselves from these planes a bit better. And then we're going to start pushing down into this base. Because it's mostly Tech 1 and we're Tech 2, we won't have a problem. We can just sit back here while our hounds blow everything up. I've also brought one of my fat boys with us as well because, like I said, fat boys are awesome. And there's a dead gauntlet here, so I'm going to resurrect that. And then I'm going to use that to shoot at stuff. It did kill my smuggler with a little plane, but that's alright, I can resurrect that up too. Then we can get another Amex up. This means we've got, 5 of them up at the moment, so we've got a decent amount of metal. And we're going to get plenty of reclaim coming in soon anyway, so we can use that. At the same time, we're building another bunch of hounds and some more jammers and stuff back at the base, as this gives us more protection and allows us to push better. Now we're going to just let this gauntlet do its job and take some things out, and then we're going to let the fat boy blow stuff up, and we're going to push in and just squash everything we can. Remember, there's 7 teams here. So if all of a team's commanders die, everything self-destructs. So on this one, because you're fighting individual teams rather than an allied team of 4 or 5 AIs, once you kill the commander, everything they've built will blow up. This means that the mission briefing that says kill them early, run in and reclaim all their stuff is pretty much rubbish. because once the commander dies, everything that's alive will just self-destruct. But hey, there's still 1250 metal we can eat, so we're going to do that, and with some Lazaruses, and that's going to mean that we get a bit of an extra resource boost for ourselves. Now that that guy's out of the way, that's taking a bit of pressure off us. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move around the map in this direction, and we're going to use that to come and kill the next one. They're still trying to poke into our base using T1 units, but a couple of fat boys and some hounds will just keep them from causing any trouble whatsoever. We did have a big load of push come through there and kill some stuff, but it's not a problem. I've got enough hounds out there now that I can bring some through to protect this area, and I've got some Lazaruses knocking around so I can resurrect everything that died. While that was happening, took out another commander, and then everything they had self-destructed. So this means that this part of the map is now ours. So if we secure this line here, then no enemies can get past, and that means if we can secure here, we've already got these things protected. That means that we've got pretty much maybe 40% of the map is all ours. That's going to mean that we can get up loads and loads and loads of metal production, and we can just out-economy everyone. And it looks like one of the AIs killed one of the other AIs, so I didn't have to do that one myself. Just happened all on its own, and that's great. Less things to worry about. So I'm just going to use this time to just keep teching up, keep building units, and then after a while what I'm going to do is just start moving my fat boys along with this vanguard into this base to take out this AI to give myself more of the map to play with. Now it's time to just do some damage. So now I've got lots of Razorbacks up. I'm going to use them supported by my fat boys and my other units to come and squash this guy. Still lots of T1 units running around. They get absolutely melted without any trouble. And the commander goes down without really much work. And then there were 3. But poor old Paladin here. Paladin is just squashed into this tiny little ravine. Got a few Tech 1 defences and not much else. So I'm going to run through with my Razorbacks, kill him, clear that up. And then there were 2. And my Razorbacks go through and take this guy down. So there's a lot of luck on this one. It really depends what the AI decide to do, but ideally what you want to try and do is stay out of the way, let them fight each other, rush to T2 where they're all running around with tier 1 units, and then get some hounds out, get some radar jamming and support for them, and a couple of fat boys mixed in to take out big clumps of units, and then just use it to squish them down. Hi there, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please click the like button, and if you've got any questions or thoughts, then leave them in a comment below or on the Discord. And as usual, if you want to see more of this sort of thing, then subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you back soon.